listen close, because here's the way the story really
Hello? Didn't you hear me? I just said I might be in the house.
I never thought I would say this, but I'll be on the first flight out.
I can't believe you're here.
Hi, Mom. That makes two of us. Hey, baby brother.
Sheriff, what is this all about?
Yeah. Is Riley in some kind of trouble or something?
No, he's not under arrest. But, Riley, you can't leave town anytime soon.
How do you expect to help people when you have so much darkness and secrecy inside of you?
Come on, Randy. Stop playing games.
Hello, everyone. My very special guest is a talented actor, writer, director, Hayden Newman. I actually stumbled across his films on Tubi. That's Reunion from Hell and Reunion from Hell Part 2. I fell in love with the first one, and I absolutely adored the second one. So here we go. Without further ado, it's the Hayden Newman. Hayden, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful. I'm glad to have you on here. We tried like 4 times. It's been crazy schedules.
Yes.
As I mentioned in the intro, I came across you from good old Tubi. If it wouldn't be for Tubi, I probably would have never found these movies.
Yeah, I was a lot of people, because it was independent films, have found it on Tubi. I will say Tubi is a great platform.
Sure is. There is some aspects of both of these films that's not normal in horror movies, which we'll get into. I'm not here to do anything about talking about the film. Homosexuality you never really see in horror
No.
movies. And I mentioned in my review that especially part 2 blew me away. It made it original. It made it different. It made it your own. But we want to go to part 2 just quite yet. But we want to start with part 1. Watching this, I've watched tons of independent films over the last 14 years. I've seen super budget, low budget, no budget. However, when a filmmaker makes a film, it's an accomplishment itself. I don't criticize people because I'm an independent actor myself and voice actor. I know what it's like to be behind the scenes and holding that prop and holding this prop. It takes a lot of energy and passion to get it made. So I am not here. I don't care whose film it is. I will not do it. If I don't care for it, I will probably send a message and I'll give my aspect on it, but I will not post it publicly because my job is not to discourage people from watching films. My job is to promote films for people to see.
Exactly.
So I'll let you talk. I'm just excited about a few things. So I started watching this, and the opening scene is when I seen you. There's a past that happened, and you left town,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have the opening scene. That's when I realized this is not your normal horror film.
Yeah. It was
Go ahead.
it was important to me to of course, pay homage to the films that influenced me, like Halloween, Scream. Of course, if you watch the movies, you see there's a lot of Scream homages in there. Scream was a big one on me.
Yep.
But I took the character of Riley, and what I wanted to do after that opening scene was, typically when you meet the protagonists of a horror film, they've had a pretty normal life.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the film, they are messed up. I wanted to do it in reverse. I wanted it to be when you first meet Riley, he's a mess. He's obviously been through something that was traumatic. And throughout the film, Riley does the reverse of what the typical protagonist would do as he slowly gets his life back.
Love it. I love it. You, like I said in the review, I loved your performance in here. I love the occasional ex-boyfriend and boyfriend now and his boyfriend then. Very fucking clever.
Well, I also wanted to do, like you said, and we'll get it more in depth with it, but I'm sure there's a huge LGBTQ following in the horror genre.
Yes.
And they are never represented, and if they are represented, they're represented like as a joke or as a sidekick that gets killed off really quickly.
Correct.
Which was not reality. So to me, it was important to portray the community as it really is.
You killed it.
It's these characters. The story doesn't center around that fact. That's just who these people are. Right. And they're thrown into this situation where, they've got to figure out what's going on, or they're going to be the next one on death's list, basically.
Correct. And what I do like about this is you made it more than just one. Like you said, it was a whole group of people that each other. It involves. And I thought that was very clever. Like you said, you might have somebody in a movie that's gay or whatever, and they get killed quickly. It's like a side joke. You know what I mean? Yes. And then for you to make it about the whole situation is what fucking threw me off, which I absolutely loved you for doing this, because you're making it out there. Look, we're human too.
Exactly.
We're not pussies. We're not going to lay down and cry and someone's having a knife in my face. And that's what I think Riley Coop Connor has done for me when I watch this film. You know me, I absolutely loved both of these films. Anybody who does not like this film, I got one thing to say to you: fuck you. End of story. Because I don't care. I mean, you cannot not hate these films. You cannot. If you are a film reviewer like myself, if you're an independent film fan like myself, you're going to love this film. Because I don't see any bleeps, bloops, and blops. Even if it did, I don't care. It was shot very well. The characters were amazing. And the love scenes are I just can't get enough of it. I just think that you proved to everyone that this is going to be a stepping stone for anybody who is, you know, homosexual or transgender or whatever, who's afraid to make a movie because people are not going to like it. You know what I mean? I think
Exactly.
you are the leader that started this formation.
Well, thank
And I
you.
don't
That
think anything bad by that. I have a lot of homosexual friends. I treat them the same as I would treat anybody else. You know what? They're the best damn friends that you can have.
Oh yeah.
Trusting. So, you know, I'm just stating the facts that your character, Riley, I said in the review, there's something about you that had drawn me to this film. You have that authentic realism, a real person that I can meet you on the street and find a person exactly like Riley Connor. That's what makes this movie so fucking amazing.
And thank you. And I've heard that a lot, and which is I've done some of these conventions and met fans, and that's amazing to hear their stories and to hear how the films touch them. But after we did the first film, I didn't realize what was coming. I knew we had something, but Kathy Podwell, and who played my mother in the first film, she set
Love
me
her.
down. She's amazing. Oh, she's amazing. She's such a sweetheart. I don't think she has a mean bone in her entire body. But she set me down and she said, Hayden, I want you to realize something. And it was actually after we did the premiere of the first movie. She said, you've just created a character that people are going to forever associate you with. When they come up to meet you, they're not going to see Hayden Newman. They're going to see Riley. And then I did. At that point, I was like, "No, that's crazy. No." And then I started doing these conventions, and it really has happened. People have really connected to Riley Connor, and that is an honor to me, a huge honor.
Oh, you're such a lovable character. Spontaneous. I mean, Joanna Hodge, I seen her newest movie, Redhead, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do an interview with her. That's coming up soon. I got in contact with her. Jessica Flux, I know her from previous movies that I reviewed. One of the coolest characters, I think, and it was Reese Sanders in Gage, Adam Freeman. I mean, to see that opening scene, I've never seen that before in my life. That's what draws you back home again. And
Yeah.
all the characters were amazing. They really were.
Well, I said from the
all kinds. Go ahead.
I said from the get go, yes, this is a horror film, but I wanted to make it where you care about these characters. They're not just there on the chopping block. Yes, I love horror films. I love Friday the 13th. But let's be real, a Friday the 13th movie is about a kill count. You really don't get any kind of backstory or anything. And I said from the get-go, that was very important to me. And I mean, if you go back, some of the best horror independent films, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, you do get some sort of backstory and you relate to those characters in some sort of way.
Yes.
And that was important to me. That was extremely, extremely important. And, I've had some people, and, when you're in this business, people are going to criticize. And some people have said, there was not enough kills or, whatever. And that's part of this business.
Okay.
And
I'll let you finish and I can comment on what you said there, but go ahead.
but like I said, it's just part of this business. Some people are not just like, some people like apples, some people like oranges. It's that way.
Correct.
Um, so I can't make you like the movie, but the fact that you like it and it connected with you in some sort of way, that means more to me than any kind of money or anything like that. The fact that you connect it to that story and you got something out of it.
Yep. You know what? It's one of the films that I haven't forgotten, honestly. I'm going to be purchasing both copies so I can have physical copies. And maybe if I'm lucky, I can get you to sign them just to make it more personable.
I think I can do that.
Because I mean, only certain movies that I have anybody sign, they're the ones that mean something to me. I'm not one of these blowhards that want every damn movie signed. It has to mean something to me for me to get that signature. And sir, your movies are the ones that deserve it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yep. And a statement that you've made just previously about how they said that there's not enough kills. That just shows me that it's a younger generation, because I'm not trying to trash on younger generation horror fans. But if they would watch the early 80s horror films, that a knife would go up and they'd show nothing. And
Exactly.
Major kill. Those movies are the movies that I was raised on. So that would never come out of my mouth. It only comes out of the mouths of the ones that have never seen movies like that. And I am not criticizing nobody. I'm just stating the honest facts. You don't need tons of kills in your movie. There's a story. If there's a story, it has to make fit for the kills.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, if even, going back, like you said, the original Halloween, which I said was a huge influence on me.
Yep.
There's very little blood, if any, in that movie.
Yep.
And the first, well, other than, the older sister getting killed in the beginning, the next kill's not until about 45 minutes into the film.
Because it's character driven. That's
yes. Why. And that's what I was raised on. Just like you, that's what I was raised on. And I mean, even I went back and rewatched the original Scream. I can't tell you how many times.
Oh,
yes, those kills are brutal, but for example, there's that opening kill, and then there's not another kill in that movie until about 45 minutes into the film.
And guess who made it? Wes
Craven, yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That is where the old school factor comes in. Point proven.
Exactly.
Great job, Hayden. So you proved my point. So you're amazing.
Thank you.
But it's. I'll say this. There's a movie out there called Terrifier. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I will speak honestly, open and free about it, because I don't give a shit if the dickheaded fuckface director hears me say it. I watched the first one. It was cool. It was. But then when you watch the second one, now it's overkill. Now it's ridiculous. I mean, too many kills is ridiculous, especially when the acting that's in the movie wasn't very good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'll just give you a side story why I'm really irritated with this piece of shit. And I don't care if he hears this. I do reviews, as you know. And I put the trailer audio in the review before the review. Okay. I got a strike in YouTube because I used his audio from his trailer in a review that I reviewed for his movie for fucking free.
Oh, wow.
So I take that very personal when I'm helping promoting your film and you're going to dick me like that. So I have no gumption to even have anything that he does. I will never, ever, ever promote again. That's just disrespectful. And that's what I'm saying. Now he has a part 3 around Christmas time, whatever. All I'm saying is I'm bringing this up for one point. You don't need overkill in a movie to make a movie.
Exactly.
It's sickening.
Exactly. I mean, even though it's considered one of the most gruesome horror films of all time, if you go back and watch that original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there is really no kills into about 35-40 minutes into the movie. And yes, it's more of the imagination. You're not seeing what's happening, but it's more of the imagination. It's
Right.
not blood. It's, and to me, that's scarier. When your imagination goes to that place of, oh, this can really happen, that's scarier to me.
Yes, I totally agree. So to get back to, I went a little rant there, but I want to prove my point that you don't need, I mean, I'll say it in part. Have you seen part 2?
I have, yeah.
Have you seen the bed scene of that girl?
Yes, and I will
my God.
say, I was like, why isn't it over yet? It just kept going and going and going, and I was like, why is it still going?
Yes. And that's, I mean, I like gore too, but that was no need for that. That was just totally stupid. And the acting of, I'm not no Tom Hanks in acting either. But I think some of the actors in that movie just did not carry that film very well. I'm sorry to say that they didn't.
I agree with you there. I will say, I met Lauren, who played Sienna in that movie. She's a doll, complete doll in real life. And really, that's one thing. Even though he did do overkill, I will give him for 2 is he did do kind of a backstory. You're wondering why, but other than her, and I liked her little brother, I really didn't care about anybody else in the film.
Right. That's my whole point. I agree. But now let's get back to your gem, which I would take that over care for any day of the week. And I'm not just saying it because you're on an interview either. You made a part 2, and my dear friend Lisa Wilcox, who I've met twice, I interviewed back like 13 years ago. It was fun to see her as your mother. Now, is there a reason why was the original mother not available?
Yes, what happened was originally Kathy was coming back. If you watch part 2, it's very much driven with her character.
Right.
It's more about her character than Riley. I mean, Riley's there, but it's more about her and the choices she made.
Right.
And Kathy loved the script. She was ready to come back. And then some family health issues come up. And sadly, she was not able to return, which broke my heart. It did. And I actually kind of argued with Kathy. Not really argued, but we debated. I was like, well, if you're not coming back, I'm going to rewrite the whole script. And she said, no, you're not. You're going to make the script because the script is amazing. I give you permission to recast the role, which was very hard on me because me and Kathy became very close on one. So I sat back and I thought, who in the world is talented enough and looks similar enough to Kathy that it's a believable recast, that it's not Tuesday Night and Nightmare on Elm Street 4, what they did with the Patricia Arquette recast.
Yeah.
And I sat back and thought. And I thought, Lisa. If you look at a picture of Lisa and Kathy, they look like they could be sisters.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yep.
And so I contacted Lisa, and I told her from the get-go, this is a recast. Would you read the script? Would you consider it? She watched the first movie and read the script, and she came back and said, yes, I'd love to do it. Which was amazing to me because, I mean, I've gotten to work with Kathy Podwell and Lisa Wilcox at that point. But Lisa came to me and said, do you want me to copy what she did in one? And I said, no. I said, you're stepping into this role. Make the character yours. And, you've seen what happened in the first film, take that and add it to whatever you want, how it affected her 2 years later, where she's at. So it was amazing to get to work with Lisa, but that was all not planned.
That's probably one of her bigger performances that I've watched in quite some time with Lisa. I mean, she does a lot of like most of the big names do. They'll have like a little small scene and they're gone. But to see her play that whole part through the whole movie was great. It was nice to see.
Exactly. And that's something that's very important to me too, is I don't want actors that are known to feel like I'm just trying to use them for their name. If I'm going to put you in my movie, you're going to be in a significant part. You're not just going to do a cameo or, just be there for a minute and get killed.
Yeah.
Because then I'm just using your name, cashing in on your name to sell my film. And I don't like that. I don't agree with it.
Well, you had another legend in part two as well that I did not realize who it was at first. Was Ryan Lavery, which Ryan Lavery came from soap opera.
Yes, All My Children. Yes.
Mark Patton was fucking great.
Well, yes, he was. I'm actually doing an event with Mark next weekend. Mark. The way that all came about is several actors were interested in that role. Tom Matthews was interested, that played Tommy in Friday the 13th Part 6. But scheduling didn't work out. Then Kevin Blair, or Kevin Spiritus, who played Nick in Friday the 13th Part 7, he was interested, but he had just went back on to Days of Our Lives, so scheduling wasn't going to work out. So several of these actors were interested in the role and liked the role. And the way Mark came about is me and Lisa were talking on the phone one night, and I'm like, Lisa, I don't know who to cast into this role. And Lisa said, have you ever thought about Mark Patton? And I was like, yeah, I would love to work with Mark. But, he kind of, if you ever watched his documentary, he's disappeared for a long time.
Yeah, he did.
And she said, well, email Mark. She gave me his email. She said, tell him I'm involved. Send him the script and just see what he says. So I emailed him, and I don't think he even read the script yet. He saw Lisa was involved and said yes.
That's awesome.
And what's funny about Mark in that role, which he's amazing in that role, is, when you're writing a character, you see him a certain way.
Yeah, I know you're going. Go
But the first scene that I shot with Mark on Reunion from Hell 2 was the scene where he shows up at the front door. And he turned around and delivered that first line. And I thought, okay, this is how he's playing it. I'll go with it. But I mean, he had us cracking up on set. We had to do some takes over because we bust out laughing in the middle of a take. He was comedy gold. That's for sure. And then, I've had several people ask. I try to clarify it all the time. I've had several people ask, did I set out to have a Nightmare on Elm Street cast reunion. No, I did not.
No.
That's just how it happened. When Danny Hassel come on board, who of course played Alice's boyfriend in Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5. I had met Danny at a convention, and we were neighbors the whole weekend and really hit it off. And we were outside, and I just asked him, I was like, would you ever want to work with me? And he said, I thought you would never ask. And that's how Danny got into it. Because in the first draft of that script, that character was not created. That character was actually specifically created for Danny. And no, I did not set out to do a Nightmare on Elm Street reunion. That's just how the cards fell.
Yeah.
Nothing
wrong with that either.
And a lot of people, it was the first time, and at that time, I believe it was 28 years that Lisa and Danny had done anything together. And it was the first time that Lisa and Danny and Mark had done anything together. So it was the first time ever to have 3 Nightmare on Elm Street alumni in one film.
That's amazing.
And I feel blessed. I do, to be able to work with the people that I've worked with. If you'd have told me, we're coming up on 4 years since we shot the original movie. If you'd have told me 5 years ago that I would end up working with the people that I've worked with, I'd have told you you're crazy. But I'm very blessed in that, aspect.
Well, and ironically, every one of them had a great part in that film.
Yes, and a lot of people have said they wish Danny's character had a little bit more. And yes, he was an important character, but had a little bit more to do. And I agree with them after watching the film. I didn't know he would become a fan favorite too, but Danny is just likable. He's a lovable person and in real life, and it shows on screen. So, you can always go back and say, and as a filmmaker and as an actor, you always go back and say, I wish I'd have done this differently. I wish I'd done that differently.
Oh, yeah.
But it's done. It's out of the gate. There's nothing you can do about it now.
No, but speaking of part 2, I do want to bring this up. So we briefly talked about it earlier, and I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, or that's not my whole point. The whole point is, in most horror movies, you'll see a guy and a girl having sex or whatever during a murderer running loose. Okay?
Yeah.
You, my boy, are too much, because I've never seen. Of course, I didn't see it, but the gist was there. Is you having a relationship with a guy during a killer that just topped the iceberg for me, because you broke boundaries in that scene alone.
Well, I wasn't trying to break boundaries. I guess I was in a way, because like you said, typically all you see is typically just a guy and a girl having sex. And typically all you see is the girl naked or running around the woods naked or whatever.
Yep.
And for me, I'm not a gratuitous nudity type person.
Right.
If it's going to happen, there needs to be a reason.
Yes.
And that was actually the final shot we did of that movie, because it had to be a closed set. Um, and I wanted, if you watch that scene, honestly, and you go back and you watch the Terminator, the original Terminator, the sex scene between Sarah Connor and Kyle is very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what I wanted.
Right.
A beautiful scene. Yes, it's like a minute scene,
Yes.
but to show these people are in love with each other. And at that point, they think they have their whole lives ahead of them because they don't know what's supposed to happen.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, there's very, and some people have said something about the sex scene, which I knew they would, especially, and not judging anybody, but straight guys, they had a problem with it, even though it don't show anything.
Oh, please.
But I wanted to do that because I felt it was important to the story. I didn't,
Right.
like I said, I didn't set out to break any kind of boundary. It goes back to, again, these are who these people are, and they're just thrown in a terrible situation. They're everyday people.
Right. And I understand exactly what you say. I don't mean anything by breaking boundaries. For me to watch horror movies, what I'm trying to say. And that doesn't bother me. For anybody for that to bother them, then you got issues, because I don't know what the big deal is.
Exactly.
I had a problem with Brokeback Mountain. You know what I mean? What does it matter if it's in a horror movie?
Yeah, I mean, again, kind of like the sex scene in Brokeback Mountain. You don't see anything.
Right.
You just know what's going on.
Right. Fuck them. I just got a promotion today, so I'm in a good mood. So I'm just going to speak however I want to speak. People need to stop being sensitive. Need to stop being stereotyping people in movies. They just need to shut the hell up, mind their day. If you don't like it, then don't watch it.
Exactly, and that's what I've said to a lot of people. What I enjoy, you might not enjoy. I might enjoy certain music, certain artists, and you don't, and that's okay.
Right.
At the end of the day, the fact that these artists got it done and got it out there is what's important.
Amen.
Because it is tough. And I've had people ask me, advice. Could I give them any advice? And I'm like, first of all, you got to have some really tough skin to be in this industry.
You do.
And one of my favorite quotes, and I try to live by it, is if you have a dream, never let anybody take it away, and always believe that the impossible is always possible.
Yeah, you know what? You're correct. Because if you live life the opposite, you're not going nowhere.
Exactly. And, I started out when I was 15 years old in theater acting. That's where I started. And many actors started in theater.
Right.
And then I went from acting to directing and all that. And I always wanted to do a film. The idea of the original reunion had been going around in my head for years. And I went to a convention, and Michael Bean, who was doing a panel, and it's weird because I rarely go to those panels.
Me too.
Him and his wife were doing a panel on independent filmmaking. And he said, if you want to make a movie, what's stopping you? Just go do it. And that clicked with me and resonated. I came home from that convention and in 6 days had wrote out the first draft of the first film.
Jeez, that was fast.
Yeah. So we went into pre-production for the original film, and this was in 2020 in the thick of COVID. We went into pre-production in February, and by October we were in principal photography.
Nice.
So the first one, I mean, it was like a train. It just kept going and going and going and going and going. Like I had people trying to put me down and say, "You're not a filmmaker. You've never done this before. You're not going to be able to do this." And that just fueled me more.
Yep.
I'm very much the type of person, don't tell me I can't do something, because I'm going to prove to you that I can.
And I'm going to say it again. Fuck them.
Exactly.
Naysayers, you know. I've been doing this for 14 years, and a lot of reviewers in the past that we watched the same film and they would criticize it. I came to one conclusion. Usually when they bounce on a film like that, is because they're too much of a coward to make their own. If they're such experts, then make your own damn film.
Exactly.
That's how I look at it.
Exactly. I want to tell some of them, because, I've worked with these known actors. Well, most of them live in Los Angeles. One lives in Las Vegas. One lives in Mexico. And I'm like, be on calls at 2:00 in the morning so you can accommodate them, because time difference. Because I'm on the East Coast.
Right.
That's part of it. You don't get much rest. It was like in both films, and I think it shows, we all lived together while we were making the movie. There was no caterer. We cooked. We all had dinner together. Everything.
I love that.
And I think that brought us closer together.
Yep.
And it shows in the films. The Kathy, who played my mom in the first one, and the actor that played my brother, they both come in a day and a half early, so we could start working on that family dynamic before everybody else got there. Right. And I'm lucky enough to say I got to go to Starbucks and grocery shopping with Kathy. Like it was something a mother and child would do.
That's funny.
And I will say this: we never set out to do a sequel, ever. Originally, in the original script for one, everything was supposed to be revealed. And the actor that was supposed to play that part dropped out last minute. So there's actually video of me on set going through the script saying, okay, we're cutting this, we're cutting this, we're cutting this. I literally had to rewrite on set of filming. And when we ended that first movie, the way it ended, me and Sam Hodge, who was my co-director and my DP, we looked at each other and said, we got to do a sequel. Now, there's no way around it. And that's how the sequel came about. So it was never originally to be a sequel.
Right.
It just happened that way.
I'm glad you did, because I loved it.
Well, thank you. And, a funny story, more things happened. Of course, 2 set in an isolated cabin, and we shot that in Searville, Tennessee, outside of Gatlinburg in the mountains. And we actually got snowed in a couple of times. And it was we joked really about, okay, instead of this, because we shot that in January, we were like, okay, so instead of this being summer camp. We're in winter camp. And we just had a blast filming we had a blast filming both of them, but on the second one we really had a blast, and I think it was because of the isolation, and the person who owned that cabin did not tell me when we rented it that it was actually on top of the mountain. So we get there, and it was on the very top of the mountain.
Oh, wow.
So once you're up there, getting down is not easy.
Yeah, mountains, especially with snow.
Exactly. And it really felt like with that second one, because I don't know if you noticed it when you watched the second one, because it's a Christmas theme, I put a lot of nods to Black Christmas in there, and the classic Christmas horror films that I love. And that's what I love so much about the second one, is when you pick up with the surviving characters, we're dealing still a little with the past, but we've moved on. And I love the fact, and there's so many creepy shots in that movie, that we are being watched and everything's going on around us, and we have no idea until that point in the movie where the movie flips, where Riley gets that video. And I'm not going to say what, I don't want to ruin it for people, but that's where the movie flips. And that's when we realize, okay, we don't have time to think about all this. It's fight or die. And that was important to me. The fact that, there's scenes in that film, the one that creeped me out the most, and this was actually Sam's idea, it was not in the script, is when he comes into the house and you're seeing it from his point of view, and he goes up the stairs and comes into Riley's room and just barely touches Riley's hair while Riley's asleep.
Mm-hmm.
That scene freaks me out so bad. So, I when people ask me, I'm like, 1 and 2 are different movies. They've got the same cast, or returning surviving cast, but the stories are a little bit different. Because in my mind as a writer, and you've seen 1 and you know what happened, Riley got his resolution at the end of 1. He finally got that peace. So, we don't have Riley running around in 2, pouring vodka down his throat and everything else all the time. And I actually joked about it. I didn't realize it when we were filming, and I watched when we were in editing, and I watched the edited scene. I was like, Riley is drinking vodka like Marge in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, he just turning it up. But and it's funny because one of the questions I get a lot is, were you really drinking? Like, no, there's no way I could have stood up if I'd have drunk that much vodka. Like, no, that was water. The only scene in 1, fun behind the scenes thing, the only scene in 1 that any of us were actually drinking in, there was 2 of them. One is the scene where Riley and his brother are talking that first night right after Riley returns. And the other scene is when everybody is around the campfire and reunited. And it's talking about stories from the past. And Everyone was drinking in that scene.
Yeah. Wow. It looked like you had so much fun just by you telling the story, and you can see it. You can see the closeness in part 2. I mean, not that part 1 wasn't. I'm saying the isolation, the snow, and I'm just very
Yeah.
pleased to see
And
both of them.
I was lucky enough to, and for all the listeners out there, this is real independent filmmaking. I was lucky enough to have an amazing director of photography come on, Sam Hodge. And we worked so well together that when I was in front of the camera, we knew what the other one was thinking. We really clicked. And I give a lot of credit to him and to his wife, Jonna, because she was running the boom mic. Literally, there was, and I'm not joking, there was Sam running the camera, her running the boom mic, setting up lights, and all of us running around trying to set stuff up because you don't have a huge Hollywood crew. You got to do it yourself.
Yep.
And that was, to me, magical. We were all like, oh, we're a team. We were excited about it. Let's make a movie. And I was very fortunate. I will say that. I was very fortunate.
Well, I do want to give a shout out to Sam Hodge and his wife, Jonah. They sent me a copy of Redhead, which I was able to review, and I loved it.
Yes.
They're going to be my guest soon for an interview because they have Redhead Part 2 coming out.
Yes.
So
and Redhead is a very different movie for Reunion for me.
Quite so.
I was actually supposed to do a part in Redhead, and some stuff happened, and I was not able to get up there while they were filming. So I will be involved with 2.
Awesome.
In some sort of capacity. I can't say what.
Right.
But I will tell you this on here first, because this is asked to me all the time. Will there be a 3? A Reunion from Hell 3? Yes. There will be.
And I'm going to be part of it, right?
If you want to be sure, yes, come on.
I do.
Yes, there is going to be a 3. I am actually in the middle of writing the script right now. And the plan is for us to start shooting January, February of next year. 3 will be, and I've said this and I'm standing by it, 3 will be the final one of these films. Because how many times can one person be targeted?
Yes.
So we've decided to make 3 where it's a trilogy.
Yeah.
And I have some, I can't say it. There are returning cast members coming back. I can't say who. There are some new known horror actors that are coming into this film. I can't say who yet.
Yeah.
I know people will be very excited though. When I had a certain actor come up to me at a convention, well, they didn't come up to me. First, they came up to the person who is my handler at conventions and handles all the money and, all that stuff. And this actor, I can't say, well, I'll say it's a she, asked my handler, will you please talk to Hayden and see if he'll let me be in Reunion from Hell 3. Now, we had not even announced it yet. You're the first one to get the announcement. But they wanted to work with me so badly. And that was crazy to me. I was like, why didn't you just come to me? But she was nervous to talk to me. But we hit it off. And that actress is going to be involved with 3. I said the only way, and I mean this, the only way I would ever do a 4, if Riley is to survive 3, I won't say. The only way I would ever do a 4, hypothetically, is if it was happening to someone new, a new group of people, and Riley steps in. And it's like kind of like Nancy and Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Kind of like, I've been through this before, I'm going to help you. That's the only way I would ever do a 4.
Yes. I'm anxious to see this.
Well, I will tell you that if you thought the twists and turns in 2 were shocking, wait till you see them in 3.
So now, is there any more relatives coming over from in 3 from you?
Yes.
Is there going to be a new relative that you're going to bring in?
Yes.
Wink, wink.
Yes. There's a couple of new relatives being brought into 3. Because I'll give you the basic plot line of 3, which doesn't give anything away. There's another time jump. It takes place 7 years after the original film.
Okay.
And which would be, I think, off the top of my head, I believe it's 3 years since the second one. Riley, when you pick up with Riley in this movie, Riley's life is great. You know, he has wrote a book to tell the real facts of what really happened because, you know, Ryan didn't know everything and twisted it all around. And, you know, because Riley is a therapist too, that was a big deal for him to write the book. And Riley is returning home because he found it therapeutic for his hometown to be the last stop on his book tour. So he comes home, you know, all that, and then it starts again. So that's the basic, other than it takes place at Halloween time. That's the basic plot line.
I love it.
So yes, there are returning characters, you know, and there are going to be new characters that are very interesting. And like I said, if you thought the twist in 2 was something, you won't see the twist in 3 coming at all.
Oh, wow.
It's huge. It's really huge, and that's all I'll say. It's huge.
I am stoked. Well, I'll tell you what, Hayden, it was great to have you on today.
I have enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me. I love to do these podcasts and talk to everybody, and it's just an honor when I'm asked. And I'm so glad that you enjoyed both of the movies. And of course, we'll keep in touch and all of that.
I'll tell you what, you're probably one of them. You know, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass or anybody else's. Out of the 14 years I've reviewed, I think you were the one that I really connected with the most, just through your work alone in both movies. I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you. That means, you have no idea how much that means to me.
And we will talk off interview because I have a few questions to ask you. But
okay,
you take care of yourself, and
you too.
And we'll talk soon.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas, kiddo.
Holy shit!
Mom, can I ask you something?
You can ask me anything silly.
ever think about him?
Oh, I do. And I think of all the good times that we had with him. And some days I ask myself, what have I done to make him do all those horrible things that he did?
You know, I knew this was coming. I knew this wasn't over.
We don't know. We don't know if it's happening again. I mean, maybe this is somebody's idea of a sick joke. We don't know.
No, Claire's dead. I know it. I can just feel it.
We don't know that, sweetie.
So, you say this is all going to start happening again, and I have a front row seat for it.
Merry Christmas, Riley.